Everything wrong with...
Thomas and the Stinky Cheese.
Let's start.
In the summer, the hedges are full of brightly colored birds. The fields are full of animals, and the smell of wildflowers fills the air.
What was the point of this opening sequence? It just drags out the story for me.
Thomas was at the coaling plant. He was shunting freight cars with Diesel, Ari, and Bert. Thomas didn't like working with diesel engines, and the diesel engines didn't like working with Thomas.
Why are we using the Steamies versus Diesels conflict AGAIN?! I thought that got resolved like 3 years ago at this point.
And Thomas is the most stinky Steamy ever.
Have they seriously never met with?
Just then, Sir Topham had arrived at the yard. Thomas, I need you to go to the dairy. There is a delivery waiting for you there.
Why are you sending Thomas to collect the delivery? He's busy enough as he is. Who's going to shunt trucks with Diesel, Ari, and Bert while Thomas is collecting the delivery? Why can't you send someone else to collect the cheese? Oh, and don't tell me as if the engines are too busy. You have like a dozen engines doing absolutely nothing at this point. Why can't you send one of them to collect the cheese? We're not even 2 minutes in, and there's already so much wrong with this episode. If you guys thought the early bird was bad, just watch this episode.
Thomas was happy to be away from the diesels. He was pleased to be going to the dairy.
Okay, I just have to talk about the sets in this episode. The sets are so bland and generic that it's not even funny. They are the most bland sets I have ever seen in this season. Compare these sets to Season 5 and there's no competition. Then again, all the episodes of Season 11 have the same issue.
But when Thomas arrived at the dairy, his freight cars were full of stinky cheese.
Why is the cheese being transported in wooden boxes on a flatbed? The boxes aren't even tied to it. Thomas could probably travel like 2 miles before the boxes fall off the flatbed.
Yuck, huffed Thomas. That's the stinkiest cheese I have ever smelled.
That face. Also, how are you able to smell the cheese anyway? The boxes are made out of wood and enclosed.
You must take it to the docks before the ship leaves, said the dairy foreman.
And when does the ship leave?
Bust my buffers, said Thomas. Everyone will smell this cheese for miles.
No, they won't. Again, the boxes are made of wood and are closed.
Thomas saw Diesel waiting at a junction. Oh no, moaned Thomas. If Diesel smells how stinky I am, he'll tell everyone that I really am the stinkiest engine on Sodor. And I don't want everyone to think I'm stinky, he puffed.
Okay, first of all, why is Diesel just sitting in the middle of the line with tankers in his face? Is he waiting for an accident to happen? Secondly, once again, how is Diesel gonna smell the cheese if the boxes are made of wood? And thirdly, come on, Thomas, you've dealt with situations like this before. If Diesel does laugh at you, why not just ignore him and move on to the docks?
Thomas backed quickly along the track. Thomas, stop! The signalman called. If you go that way, you'll be late. But Thomas had already gone.
Okay, there's no way Thomas could have gone that fast.
Thomas raced through the countryside. No one will smell how stinky I am now, he chuffed.
Not unless another engine is puffing right next to you.
But then, Thomas saw Ari waiting in a siding.
Again, why is Ari just sitting in a siding doing absolutely nothing?
Oh no, it's Ari, moaned Thomas. I can't let him smell how stinky I am.
Again, you've dealt with situations like this before. Why not just either ignore Ari or stand up for yourself?
And turned left at the next junction.
You mean previous junction, since Thomas is going back to that junction. Also, where are Thomas's driver and fireman in this?
Next, Thomas saw Bert. So this time he turned right.
Why are the Diesels just sitting in sidings with trucks in their faces instead of doing their work?
Wherever I go, there are diesel engines, chuffed Thomas.
Okay, I have to say this. This Thomas face in the hit era is awful. This face makes Thomas look like a 2-year-old, or is it just me?
Thomas puffed backwards and forwards across the island.
I don't get how that's possible.
But then there was trouble. Oh no, groaned Thomas. I'm back at the dairy, right where I started.
How was Thomas able to end up back at the dairy? There's no way he went all the way around the island only to end up back here.
Suddenly, Thomas saw Ari rumbling towards him. Thomas backed away as fast as he could. But he didn't see Bert pulling up behind him. Thomas bumped into Bert, and the stinky cheese shot into the air and splattered down all over Thomas, Bert, and Ari.
Okay, I have so much to say from that one scene. Firstly, why was Ari rumbling towards Thomas on his line? Did he cause the accident on purpose, or was the signalman not doing their job? Secondly, why did Bert pull up behind Thomas and then stopped? If he had just backed up, Thomas wouldn't have bumped into him. Thirdly, the crash was done in slow motion. Fourth, how was the flatbed able to flip over like that? Fifth, how was the stinky cheese able to shut up in the air like that? If the flatbed flipped over, it would have all landed on Thomas. And finally, what is that cheese? Cheese is supposed to be something solid, not all liquidy. I'll give the crash 20 cents.
Ari and Bert rushed straight to the washdown. Thomas wanted to go to the washdown too, but Thomas's cheese was all over the track. What am I going to do? He puffed sadly.
Oh, I don't know. Just go and get something to clean up the mess?
Then the dairy foreman arrived. Thomas, there is another cheese load ready at the dairy. But you'll have to puff quickly, said the foreman. The boat is waiting for you.
That's great and all, but what about all that cheese on the tracks? If it's not cleaned up, then another engine that passes through will either slip on the rails and derail at that bend behind them, or get stuck.
Soon Thomas was racing to the docks with a new delivery of cheese.
That flatbed only has 2 layers of boxes of cheese, meaning that the people on the mainland aren't going to get the amount of cheese that they had ordered.
Oh, yeah! What a smelly delivery, wheezed James as he passed.
Why don't you mind your own business, pal?
When he arrived at the docks, Diesel was there being unloaded.
Hey, you! You really are the stinkiest steam engine on Sodor, Thomas.
He oiled.
That face.
Well done, Thomas, said Sir Topham Hatt. Sodor cheese is famous for being really stinky. And this is the most stinky Sodor cheese I have ever smelled. You are a really useful engine.
Okay, first of all, how the hell is Sodor famous for their stinky cheese? If it is, then why did you wait 11 seasons to bring that up? And secondly, if I were Sir Topham Hatt, I'd be so pissed at Thomas for wasting his time gallivanting around the island trying to run away from the diesels.
Just then, Harry and Bert arrived at the docks. They were shiny, clean, and fresh from the washdown.
I'm sorry, did I miss something? What are Harry and Bert doing at the docks?
Diesel, Harry, and Bert, boomed Sir Topham Hatt. Now you can shunt the stinky cheese.
Why does the stinky cheese need to be shunted? Doesn't the cheese need to be loaded onto the boat before sailing to the mainland? I know the diesels need to be punished, but come on, why can't you send them to the waste dump?
Oh no, groaned Harry, Diesel, and Bert. Hee-hoo, puffed Thomas. What a stink!
I don't get the joke at the end. And if you think this video is over, oh no, you haven't seen much yet. I have yet to talk about 2 specific versions of this episode. The first version is the CGI animation. For those who don't know, this episode was used as a test for CGI animation. Here's what the episode looks like. Ugly, right? Not to mention that in the crash, the flatbed actually bends, causing the cheese to fly out, which makes it even more ridiculous. I give it 3 cents just for that. The second version I like to talk about is the Japanese dub. Now, don't get me wrong, I have nothing against Japanese Thomas as a whole, but by God, the Japanese dub for this episode can burn in hell. I'm sorry, but there's just something about Thomas's voice that makes me sound kinda irritating.
なんてことだ。遠くからでもみんなこの匂いに気づくだろうな。今度はハリーだ。ハリーがこの匂いに気づいたらどうしよう。どこに行ってもディーゼル機関車に会っちゃう。どうしよう。チーズ工場だ。僕は戻ってきちゃったんだ。
See what I mean? I bet you don't. I'm only gonna give it 1 cent since I don't even speak Japanese.